morning and welcome to episode 7 from Retirement at Place. And here we are at Royal Air Force RAF Gibraltar. As you can see, moving around here, this is the first scene you see at the start of the living daylights. You can clearly see those buildings in the background. It looked more military-like in the film, with barracks, etc. And there you can see the rock in the background, which we're off to see shortly. So this view is also clear at the start of the sequence on the rock. I actually visited Gibraltar last year and failed to find this location, so obviously, like all good Bond fans, I had to come back. And this is Douglas Path, and this is a scene of the steps where we see Tim unveiled as the new James Bond for the first time. So the next scene, after we're introduced to the next James Bond, I believe is in this little area here, this alcove, and I believe it's where Tim finds the dead agent who's been cut from the cliff face. A monkey startles him and then he hears a gunshot, and we enter the Land Rover scene. So after we're introduced to Tim for the first time, I'm pretty sure he runs down this path here, because the railings look very familiar. In the film it looks like he's running parallel with the road where he joins the Land Rover, but actually it's a bit further up the hill is this bit, but very cleverly edited to make you believe that he's chasing the Land Rover in the same direction at all times. So this is the area here where we see Tim jump on top of the Land Rover. He runs down this road here. Those are the security gates, which I believe have changed since the film. Well, Land Rover's coming from here and he jumps on top of it in this area here. There's a bit of editing and moving about in the film, because shortly after that I'm pretty certain we see the Land Rover come down that road there on the hill. It's a wider shot obviously and elevated, so you'll see it better in the film, but I'm pretty sure we see the Land Rover come down that hill thereafter. So this part of the scene is where we see the Land Rover with Tim on top, and it is actually Tim. Tom Cruise obviously gets credited with a lot of his own stunt work, but it should be noted that, much to the displeasure of the producers at the time, that Timothy Dalton did a lot of his own stunt work. Very athletic, capable James Bond, and believable too. And as you can see clearly in the film, again with Tim on top, the Land Rover goes under the tunnel and the chase carries on. What's amazing when you come here is how narrow all the roads were, because they really do hammer the Land Rover in the film. Incredible stuff. And then up there, which you can just see in the film, although it doesn't really reference it, is a path that leads to the top. So I'm pretty sure this section of road's used in the film, because I'm sure we see that stanchion in the chase. And that is part of the cable car, which goes all the way to the bottom. And this little fella here is enjoying his breakfast. He's being a good boy. So when Tim's on top of the Land Rover, he very definitely comes down this road here. Gibraltar now looks like it's on the other side, because the road zigzags and drives down there. So the car chase continues, and it's at this point here, just before the Land Rover goes over the cliff edge, that there's some coffee stalls, drink stalls, and a Land Rover Defender crashes into a load of umbrellas, which obviously have JB on, advertising JB to tobacco, but obviously the initials of James Bond. And I'm pretty sure you can see the backdrop of Gibraltar in the background. So this road here is at the end of the Land Rover sequence, and we see the Defender come down here and crash through the wall there. Now, the more eagle-eyed among you will notice that the Armco's obviously a later addition and wasn't there in the film, but maybe was installed there on the back of that accident in the film. Now, we're led to believe that the Land Rover piles over here in the film, but in reality it was actually filmed at Seven Sisters near London, England, and we'll be visiting in a future episode. They fired the Land Rover off the cliff face there, but all the same, a brilliant scene and a brilliant opening sequence. So whilst the Rock of Gibraltar and Gibraltar itself is synonymous with the start of the living daylights, it was also used for the first time in a Bond film, believe it or not. You only live twice. And looking out to sea here is where Sean James Bond funeral took place out at sea. It actually doubled for Hong Kong. And I believe in that film you can see the coastline of Morocco in the background. Unfortunately, it's not a very clear day today, and I think we're about to get a thunderstorm. But it's very visible in the film. It's also where we see Tim land on the boat in the living daylights at the end of the opening sequence, where he's supposed to be staying for 1 hour, but as we know, he decides to stay for 2.